Hello and welcome back to Quarterlight. Today we're going to look at the Volkswagen Golf, this time the Mark IV Volkswagen Golf, and it's all part of the Pedro series of Volkswagen Golfs. I'll put a bit of a link up to them particular videos up there. My particular Golf, which we're kind of like doing small improvements as we go along, but today it's a look at the actual brochure itself. Now the Mark IV Golf, as we know, was first introduced in 1997 in Europe and ran till 2003. Much later in North America, it arrived in 1999 and ran up to 2006. Always North America getting Volkswagens later than they did in Europe. In 98, the saloon or booted version, the sedan, arrived in the UK under the name of the Volkswagen Bora. The Volkswagen Bora, in my opinion, a terrible name, but really they tried to rebrand it in the UK, really to, well, to be honest with you, the UK didn't like saloons and sedans. There was much of a favour for hatchbacks, and the Golf sold the Bora still with a new name, much more. I mean, the older Jettas didn't sell anywhere near as well as the Golfs in Europe. The Jetta name did continue in North America though, where saloons and sedans really are preferential. But anyway, the brochure we're going to look at today is from 2003, so it actually matches the 2003 Volkswagen Golf that I do have. So I'll look through that brochure, see if we can see any likenesses to the actual car, and see if we can see any key differences. The main thing about the Mark IV was really trying to push it a little bit more as a better quality, more upmarket model than the Mark III, with a nicer interior, a bit more sound deadening, etc. But anyway, we're waffling a bit. Let's look at the brochure. So here it is, the 2003 Volkswagen Golf brochure, and this particular one is printed in the USA, so it is the North American specs. And I know what you're going to say, this is Quarterlight. Aren't we usually looking at older cars? Well, yes. When I started the channel, I said we were mainly looking at 70s, 80s and 90s vehicles. Well, in essence, the Volkswagen Golf is a 90s design. And also, it matches the Volkswagen Golf I've got. It's a 2003 Golf. So I wanted to do a little bit of YouTubing on that particular vehicle, so it's nice to include the brochure for it. And to a certain extent, the channel's always going to be evolving. I did say we were going to look at the 70s, 80s and 90s cars, but really, as we're going into the 2000s, these are still getting on for 20-year-old cars, so they certainly should be included. And there is also some interesting 2000s cars that may come into the channel. Yes, getting past that into 2010, maybe we are getting a little bit too modern, so that may be where we draw the line. But like I say, that's always going to be evolving. I think really we're going to be looking at sort of 20-year-old and older. But anyway, here is that particular brochure. Straight away we can see the Volkswagen Golf is in the same colour, so that kind of like was kind of the key colour in 2003, Mojave beige metallic. I think in other countries it was actually referred to as just desert beige metallic. But anyway, let's open the brochure up and see what we can see. And as we open up, we can see it's like a cleverly designed little brochure really, with the circle cut out, so we look through to see that Mojave beige Volkswagen Golf, and we look through to see the Volkswagen badge. I do apologise if there is a little bit of a noise that you can hear. We are having a bit of a rainstorm at the moment, and a little bit of a thunderstorm too. so there may be some noises in the background. Basically, the text is basically saying this is still the Volkswagen Golf, but evolving to become better and better. And it's talking about this is the Volkswagen approach to German engineering, and certainly the usual Volkswagen styling cues are ever present. Now we move on to the saying that it's bigger than it looks. It says it's pretty big for something small, and you can imagine, so certainly here in North America, this is a small car. In Europe it's more, like a small family car. Here in North America it is just a compact car for sure, but it's telling us, with this hatchback design, which hatchbacks aren't all that common or all that popular in North America, but it's trying to tell you, this hatchback is great. It makes it into a much bigger car, as everyone knows in Europe. It's talking about putting your best friend's drum kit in there and driving it away. Sort of kind of like selling it as small but practical. And this next page is also kind of like referring to it being a Golf, and it's always a Golf. Talk about those subtle changes. I guess you could look at it two ways. Maybe it's just lazy design, but really Volkswagen wanted to keep that Volkswagen DNA. So the people that really loved Volkswagen kind of like followed it. And specifically, I always think the C-pillar, as it shows when it's talking about the hatchback, that C-pillar is very much a Volkswagen Golf trait. It really is. In Europe, the main emphasis seemed to be these headlights, which were quite striking when they first came out. So the UK brochures used to really zoom in on that headlight to look at that, because that was kind of like the big thing when it came out. And now this is the feature in the interior. Like I say, this was trying to go up a class on the Mark IV from the previous version. Showed here with a beige interior, although our Volkswagen Golf is a black interior. I can see why people chose that beige interior, that sort of two-tone colour with the top being black. It looks very nice, although I'm sure it wasn't as practical as the black, so I'm not surprised someone spec'd our particular Volkswagen Golf up in black. This, as you can see, is also a manual gearbox, and this is also the top model that we've got, the GLS. So we've got the sunroof, the power windows, a CD and a cassette player. I always think that's really late to have a cassette player in there. I thought they stopped making these earlier, but I'm not a huge knowledge when they did stop using cassette players, but 2003 seems particularly late to still have cassettes, in my opinion anyway. Here now we're really looking at the engine choices. The P there is standing for performance. So we've got two engine choices. We've got the TDI and the 2 litre petrol. Ours has got that TDI mated with a manual transmission. The manual would have been the standard option, but there is that sort of automatic option and that Tiptronic option on there as well. And you could also have the 2 litre petrol engine if you preferred. This next page is really looking at the safety, crush zones, airbags, etc, etc. The model we're looking at there is now the GL rather than GLS. We can tell that because it's got these steel wheels with these wheel trims on it. Also, if you're interested, this colour is called Reflex Silver. And this is the centre page. Yeah, you can see it's a big brochure, particularly for the times. They really tried to push this, and the quality of the brochure is really good paper as well. Really presented it as a quality machine. But like I say, I don't want to spend too much on each page just because it's such a big brochure. So we'll move on. So here we go. We now move on to talking about the TDI engine. This looks like a GLS as well. It looks like it's got that alloy wheels, the colour Tornado Red. Now he's talking about this, TDI engine. Like I say, he's talking about the benefits of that. It then talks about, the injection, injects the fuel directly into one chamber. It's quite unique. And then it says throw on the turbocharger and you're laughing between gas stations at either end of the country. What you haven't to forget if you're watching from the UK is TDIs weren't that as popular as they were in the UK and Europe. Really, in North America, if you wanted a small car with a TDI engine in, this was your only choice. You got a Golf, that was it really. It had no competition, and it sold really well purely because there was nothing else to compete with it here. Now, of course, they had the huge emissions scandal around the world, and it did hit the car really badly in North America, to the extent in 2015 they no longer produced diesels. And you can imagine what a huge hit that was for Volkswagen in North America. Really, one of its main selling points was that TDI engine and that fantastic fuel economy that came on into it. Now, I do have this car, the GLS with the TDI engine, as you can say, and I can vouch. Mine's got 300,000 kilometers. It's still showing extremely good fuel economy for a car with so many miles. So you can certainly appreciate why this TDI was a great selling point, not only in Europe but here in North America, where it was virtually had no competition. The next page is showing the letter V standing for value, and he's talking about the benefits of having this car long term. So we're talking about the basic warranty, which here in North America was a 4-year 50,000 mile warranty. The powertrain warranty was a 5-year 60,000 miles, and the anti-corrosion warranty was a 12-year unlimited mileage warranty, and finally the roadside assistance was 4 years or 50,000 miles, whichever came sooner. It's also talking about this Volkswagen Club, which is basically when you bought the car, they kind of like sent you bits of information really. And then finally it's talking about accessories you can add on to your Golf. And then we kind of like have a brief look at the interior seat colours. We've also got the two cars to the left, the top one being the more basic GL, the bottom one being our GLS. So we've got the reflex silver on the GL and the Mojave beige metallic on the GLS. And then we can choose our seat covers. Now the GLS had the velour choice, the GL had the cloth. So there's three basic colours there, as you can see, the black, the grey and the beige. With the Mojave beige, just as an example, you could only choose there either the beige interior or the black interior. You couldn't have the grey with the Mojave beige, and the colours were similar, where depending what colour you got your car in, depending on what your seat choice was, but basically the higher spec one had the velour compared to the cloth. And then we get to the actual colour choices itself. So you could have the blue anthracite, indigo blue, candy white, reflex silver, black, tornado red and our Mojave beige. Quite a good colour choice really. You could add any of those colours in a GL or a GLS. The choice was really yours, although back in 2000 really the choice was what was sitting on the dealership's forecourt. In this case, our particular Golf came from St. James Volkswagen in Winnipeg. And then the page folds out again to show you the different options and what extra you got on your GLS over the GL, what options you can get on the GLS that you couldn't get on the GL, etc. One thing to point out, our particular one does have one of the packages on it. It's got the cold weather package, which added heated front seats and heated windscreen washer nozzles. And here in Manitoba, I'm not surprised somebody did opt for that particular package. And then the final page concludes, there's something to be said for staying true to your roots as you move ahead. It's definitely been working for golf in a big way, or small, depending on how you look at it. Even after a couple of decades though, it's still all about pulling out of your driveway, hitting the road and driving a really well designed car. Nothing quite compares. Call it instinct, but we're sure you'll have fun with this one. So again, drawing onto its roots. Strangely, here in North America, the Mark I Golf was actually called the Volkswagen Rabbit. And the replacement for this Mark IV went back to that Rabbit name, being called the Volkswagen Rabbit, which was a strange move, but I guess it was drawing on the heritage of North America having that Rabbit name. Even stranger, when the Mark VI came out, it went back to being called the Golf, and is still being called the Golf to this day, which is a little bit weird for sure. And finally getting to the back page with the title Buy, showing the rear of the Volkswagen Golf and that very Golf C-pillar being shown. And then finally, as we close the Volkswagen brochure, a similar sort of design to the brochure. As we close the page, it still shows the rear of the Volkswagen. So there we go, that is the Volkswagen Golf 2003 brochure for here in North America. As for our own Volkswagen Golf, well, we're still doing improvements as we go along. We've now finally got the radio key removals, so we can take it out without damaging too much, see what's going on with the radio. I think it seems to be an aerial problem if I have to guess. We've also put the caps on the centre alloys, we've changed the boot on the gear lever, we've got the windscreen wipers working again, and we've got the all important replacement badge. If you remember, the L was missing, weirdly enough. But anyway, there will be a future video showing all them little bits coming back together again. As for brochures, that's going to be the main theme still with the channel. Many more car brochure videos to come, so please do like and subscribe if you don't want to miss them, and we'll see you very soon. But please do take care, and we'll say goodbye.